A job in the tower. Even though it hasn't been a prison since the 50s, there are still 35 guards at the Tower of London. 咁即係話咧，呢篇文啦 a job in the tower 咧係指 Tower of London。咁 Tower of London 以前係咩嚟嘅咧？咁你睇第一句就知啦，佢係一個監獄。咁你會見到佢話 even though it hasn't been a prison since the 50s， 即係話自從1950年之後咧，就已經唔係一個監獄啦。咁即係換言之，1950年之前咧，就係一個監獄啦。佢話 there are， 你見到佢用 simple present tense， 即係話而家咧依然有35個守衛咧喺嗰個 Tower of London 嘅。Tourists to the tower will know them as the blue and red attired yeoman warders or beefeaters as they are commonly called。咁好啦，我哋睇一睇啦，啲咩叫 beefeaters 係咩嚟嘅咧？佢哋咧就會係一啲喺守衛住 Tower of London 嘅一啲守衛兵啦，睇一睇。係啦，咁 beefeater 咧就係一啲呢一類佢哋着一種咁樣嘅傳統服飾嘅衫啦，就係叫做 beefeaters。咁佢哋通常咧就會係以前係會係用嚟守住個監獄啦，而家咧其實俾咗好多遊客用嚟影相嘅一啲嘅人啦。You would think that these days the beefeaters' job were fairly easy， 即係話好多人以為咧，而家佢哋就係用嚟即係俾啲遊客企喺隔離，跟住就啲遊客影相嘅一啲嘅陪襯品啦，咁啊好容易啫份工。但係佢話咧就佢話其實就唔係嘅。佢話 now that the spies, murderers and enemies of the crown have left， 咁呢個其實有講咗，即係有少少搞笑，就係話咩叫 spies 咧，即係啲間諜啦。Murderers 即係啲謀殺嘅，即係想殺人嘅人啦，或者係啲 enemies of the crown 啊。咩叫 crown 咧？就係嗰個即係英女王戴上面嗰個皇冠啊。咁即係咩叫 enemies of the crown 咧？即係意思係想爭奪嗰啲女王啊或者皇帝嘅一個嗰個官，即係嗰個佢哋嗰個嘅位嘅一啲人咯。咁就叫 enemies of the crown 啦。咁好多呢啲人咧已經走晒，即係換言之咧，就係其實係而家冇人會同英女王去就係爭奪一個皇位㗎啦，已經即係唔同以前，因為英女王其實而家都唔係真係好多權力咯，咁只係一個代表啦，咁所以而家冇晒呢啲人啦，咁佢哋嘅職責咧就變咗係好似係冇乜用咁樣。In fact, it remains a pretty challenging occupation. Occupation 咧係 job 咁嘅意思。呢個咧佢話 blue and red attired 點解咧？係解 clothes 咁嘅意思，即係佢着到紅色同埋藍色嘅一啲衫嘅人咧，就係佢哋係咁樣即係咁樣形容啦。好啦，接住就到好啦下邊啦。There is first of all plenty of difficulty adjusting the beefeaters' 528-year-old tradition to the modern world。好啦，咁點解咧？佢解釋點解係咁 challenging 咧？其實下邊呢句就講咗啦，就係話咧，因為佢歷史有528年，咁但係咧 adjusting 即係要調教嗰個佢哋嘅傳統去到現代嘅世界咧，唔係太容易。Just ask Moira Cameron, one of the tower's newest yeoman warders. Cameron is the first woman to become a beefeater since King Henry VII formed the guards from his best soldiers after the Battle of Bosworth in 1485， 即係已經超過唔止係有500幾年嘅歷史啦。咁而呢一位咧就係即係第一個嘅即係女性嘅守衛兵啦。咁而邊個皇帝係開始建立呢個 beefeater 嘅制度嘅咧？就係 King Henry VII。呢個 V 即係5啦，其實呢個再加2啦，即係等於7，即係 King Henry VII。Since then, the beefeaters have been the loyal guards of the tower， 即係佢哋原來咧就係一啲乜嘢啊？守衛啦。And of the kings and queens of England， 亦都係咧就係嗰啲 guard of 唔單止係個 tower， 亦都係會守衛呢個 kings and queens 嘅一啲嘅安全啦，即係保護佢哋啦。There's a lot of history, and some have been resistant to change in this historic society。咁即係話咧，呢一啲係一啲好長嘅歷史，即係話呢500幾年嘅歷史啦，佢哋嘅職責咁係好多人咧係 have been resistant。咩叫 resistance 咧？即係佢哋係refused to change， 即係唔願意改變。 可以係解 refused 啦，或者係 opposed 啦，但係我諗 opposed 都唔係好熟悉啦，即係總之可以有佢哋係唔願意去改變佢哋嘅佢哋嗰啲嘅傳統啊，或者佢哋嘅衣着啊之類。I love my job, but can honestly say that I would never recommend another female to apply for a position of yeoman at the tower。即係話咧，佢係唯一一個，即係佢係第一個啦，但係佢唔建議女性去申請做呢個職位。點解咧？佢接住就講啦 Cameron says with sadness, speaking of hostility from other warders。呢一度咧就咩叫 hostility 咧？係敵意咁嘅意思。咁樣咧，你會見到喺後邊咧就係等於 anger and attacks。即係話咧，佢哋咧係好多，即係可能咧其他嗰啲咧就全部都係男性啦，咁佢會即係會睇唔起啲女性，覺得佢哋係冇可能即係會勝任啊之類，咁所以咧就會有好多嘅即係覺得好睇唔起佢哋，咁所以佢就唔建議女性去做呢個職位啦。好啦，呢一度咧佢問你啦，就 Would you like to apply for the role of a beefeater？ 呢一個你就之後我諗要睇晒我哋先至講個答案。咁第二題咧就 Who created the role of beefeater？ 究竟邊個創造呢個職位嘅咧？咁頭先我哋就講咗咧，就係邊個咧？就係King Henry the Seventh， 因為佢話係自從佢 form 咗呢個 guard 啊嘛，咁所以 King Henry the Seventh 咧就係嗰個嘅 creator 啦。King Henry the Seventh create the role of beefeater。好啦，接住呢一題咧，要睇埋下一段先至可以講到。And even if the jobs looks largely ceremonial 好似咧就係淨係慶典嗰陣時先至會，即係 ceremony 呢個字變出嚟，就係好似係慶典嗰陣時先至會即係先至出嚟做嘢㗎啦。Becoming a beefeater is no easy task， 即係話咧一啲都唔容易嘅。A long and distinguished career in the British military is required of any applicant。即係話咧，要有一個好咩叫 distinguished 啦，即係好 outstanding 咁嘅意思。即係話咧，佢哋要有好出色嘅一啲嘅即係喺嗰個英國嘅呢一個嘅 military， 即係意思係佢哋嗰個做即係當兵啊，當兵嘅時間咧係要當兵好長嘅時間啦，兼且佢哋個表現都要好出色啦，先至係可以俾佢哋申請呢個 beefeater。The regulations ask for at least 22 years of service， 即係要做咗當兵要當咗最少22年 ，as well as a certain rank 咧，即係話佢哋喺嗰個即係喺嗰個軍隊裏邊啊，嗰個嘅級數嗰個 rank， 即係佢哋嘅 position。And medal of good conduct， 仲有咧，佢哋要有一個即係一個金牌，代表佢哋嘅行為要非常之良好，即係唔會有任何嘅污點，先至可以申請做 beefeater。Of course, when one does become a beefeater, there is the additional difficulty of the uniform。好啦，嗱，第一樣嘢咧就唔容易咧，就係嗰個嘅 requirements， 即係嗰個嘅要求好多啦。第二樣嘢咧就係嗰件制服啦。When they perform a role in a royal ceremony 即係儀式啊，即係一個慶典儀式啦。Or when the monarch visits the tower, the beefeaters wear their famous red and gold state dress。即係話咧，逢係有特別嘅即係皇室嘅慶典啊，或者咧咩叫 monarch 咧，就係指嗰個嘅帝王啊，即係譬如話而家嘅monarch 咧就係英女王啦。咁以前就可能係佢嘅，即係佢阿爸咁就係佢哋嗰種，即係個皇帝當權者就會咧，當佢哋嚟嗰陣時咧，佢哋必須要着佢哋嘅紅色、金色嘅即係指定嘅嗰件衫啦。An extremely hot and uncomfortable item that has remained unchanged since the English Renaissance。好啦，呢一個咧即係意思係即係佢哋嗰個嘅英國嘅文藝復興啊，呢個字係解喺文藝復興之後到現在啦，即係已經係幾百年咧，都係未改變過嘅一件傳統嘅衣服。咁其實就係唔適合嘅。咁第一件事咧話即係面對嘅困難就係佢哋嘅要求好高啦。第二件事咧就係嗰個嘅 uniform 咧就一啲都唔係舒服嘅。 第三題啦 ，Can anyone become a beefeater? Why or why not？ 即係咪任何人啦 ？Anyone 即係任何人都可以成為一個 beefeater 咧？咁點解咧？咁你當然答 no 啦，唔係任何人都可以啦。你會講翻就係話a person needs to have 咁頭先我哋講過啲乜嘢嘅要求咧？嗰個要求要有乜嘢啊？最少22年嘅服務啦，兼且咧就會係要有 certain rank 啦，仲要 a medal of good conduct 先至可以成為一個嘅呢個 beefeater。咁 a person needs to have at least 22 years of military service。咁你要加翻呢個 military 點解咧？因為佢之前有提及過，但係咧就唔再，因為佢冇再喺嗰個work service 前面再寫㗎，你要加翻個 military service。and 啦，因為佢本身文章係用 as well as and a certain rank。呢一度咧，因為佢有3樣嘢啦，咁所以咧，你係可以咧，呢度係可以咧，將佢呢一個褪前嚟寫啦。A certain rank and a medal of good conduct。跟住之後咧，就 to become a beefeater。留意咧，呢個 beefeater 呢一個咧係需要係一個 capital letter，因為係一個名嚟嘅。好啦 ，from the author's suggestions, what was the beefeater's role in the past? How is it different now? 好啦，即係從佢嘅建議裏邊咧，究竟佢哋呢啲嘅 beefeaters 究竟以前嘅咩叫 role 咧？即係個角色啊，我寫翻喺呢一度 role，即係佢哋嘅以前嘅角色係乜嘢咧？咁而家 how is it different now？ 咁而家又有啲乜嘢唔同咧？咁其實以前就係用嚟做乜嘢啊？佢哋就係一開始嗰度啦，就係 the guard of the prison。OK， 佢係嗰個 prison 嘅一啲守衛啦。the guard of the prison， 佢話有呢啲 guards 啊嘛。咁而家咧佢哋嘅就係最主要咧，就係一啲係有第3段有講啦，就係一啲 ceremonial role， 即係意思咧，主要係一啲儀式上邊出現嘅一啲嘅守衛兵。好啦，你會寫翻咧就係呢個要 use your own words， 你唔可以照抄啊。They used to be guards of the Tower of London。Now they have ceremonial role。They have a ceremonial role， 即係話佢哋而家嘅角色咧，就係比較屬於係一啲儀式上邊嘅一啲嘅角色啦。以前咧就係一個 guard of the Tower of London。咁頭先我都有講過啦 ，enemies of the crown 即係意思咧就係嗰個皇冠嘅敵人，咁即係指乜嘢咧？嗰啲人咪即係 crown， 即係代表咗乜嘢啊？皇帝同埋即係皇帝或者係嗰個嘅皇后咁嘅意思咯。咁所以咧，你會寫翻咧 ，it means the enemies of the king or queen。咁你點知道咧？因為文章一開頭嗰度咧就有講話，佢哋係 enemies of the crown have left， 即係而家咧已經冇人同個皇帝啊或者嗰個英女王咧會爭一個位啦。咁嗰啲人已經走晒，冇呢啲咁嘅人出現。就跳咗第6題先啦，我哋就會睇翻第7題啦。第7題咧就 What makes Moira Cameron's job difficult？What reasons does the author provide for this？ 好啦，其實乜嘢令到佢份工係咁難咧？其實咧佢有講到係最尾嗰段裏邊最尾嗰句最難啦，因為你見到咧佢話 says with sadness 就係咧嗰啲 hostility from other warders， 即係話咧其他啲人對佢哋嘅即係對佢嘅一啲嘅即係啲嘅 anger and attacks。 所以咧就係 what makes Moira Cameron's difficult 就係the hostility 即係敵意啊嚇。如果你唔識寫翻低 the hostility from other orders， 跟住就寫翻 makes Moira Cameron's job difficult， 即係話咧令佢份工咧即係唔容易啦。咁點解咧 ？What reason？ 即係問你 why 啦。咁你可以寫翻咧就係 this is because。點解咧？我哋睇翻上邊啦，有講過話佢咧就係 is the first woman to become a beefeater since King Henry the VII formed the Guards from his best soldiers。咁可能原因咧就係因為咧係所有嘅 beefeater 裏邊咧，而係佢係唯一一個女人啦，或者係比較少係有女性。所以你就會寫翻啦，就係 this is because she is one of the few women in the team 啦，即係喺個成個隊伍裏邊咧，就係佢唯一一個女性啦。又或者咧係乜嘢咧 ？This is because 我哋睇翻上邊啦，佢有講過咧，就係話佢話 some have been resistant to change in this historic society， 即係啲人咧係唔願意去改變呢個即係咁耐歷史嘅一個咁嘅組織，所以佢會覺得咧就會比較即係佢會講話唔係太容易，佢唔建議女性去報名申請作為其中一個 beefeater， 咁所以咧就呢個係可以係另一個原因啦。咁你會寫翻啦，就係 this is because beefeaters have been resistant to change， 即係話咧佢哋係唔係太願意改變。in this historic society。好啦，接住啦，我哋就會睇埋我哋就會試下睇埋呢個第一題啦。Would you like to apply for the role of a beefeater？ 咁你可以答 yes 或者答 no， 其實都係冇問題啦。yes 或者係 no 都 OK 嘅。咁你會寫翻咧就 I would like 或者 I wouldn't like to apply for the role of beefeater。咁 name two positive aspects 啦，咁你會寫翻咧，如果係 positive 嘅咧，就會係乜嘢咧？咁而 negative 係乜嘢咧？咁呢一個我就唔 form complete sentences 俾你，但係咧 positive 就會係乜嘢啊？係個 status 啦，即係佢哋嗰個嘅地位啦。可以而 negative 可能係佢哋嘅 uniform 啦，就會係頭先佢有提及過話好厚啊、好重啊。咁仲有頭先嗰個 requirements 啦，即係話唔容易加入啦。可能自己唔得啦。咁positive 係 status 啦，同埋咧。咁因為呢一個係一個 historic， 頭先我哋有講過話呢個係一個 historic society 啦，即係一個好有歷史嘅一個組織啦。係相對於亦都可以咧，係個 uniform 都係一個 positive， 又話有啲人咧其實係好即係佢覺得係一個 honour 可以着呢一件衫，因為其實着呢件衫其實就唔容易，人哋未必會俾你去着呢一種衫，而係你着到呢種衫嘅話，就係一個榮耀啦。咁當然 negative 咧後邊咧仲有咧就會係嗰啲會鬧鬼嘅事情啦。咁所以咧呢一個都會係一個 negative， 你話唔想見鬼啊之類啦，就會係亦都係另一個即係會一啲嘅原因啊。就會係一啲 aspects that would factor into your decision。factor in 咧即係會計入去你嗰個嘅決定裏邊咁嘅意思。咁所以正面就有呢啲啦，而負面就有呢幾種嘅因素啦。住咧，我哋睇埋個文章啦。佢話 With all of its history, the Tower itself presents its own challenges。即係話淨係嗰個 Tower of London 都已經佢有本身嘅一啲嘅挑戰。Built by the Norman invaders of the island in 1078, the Tower has been almost 1,000 years of British history and not all of it's good。好啦，淨係嗰個 London of Tower，嗰個 Tower of London 咧，已經係本身好多歷史，已經成1000年嘅歷史啦，接近。咁就以前就係為咗要即係防止啲人嘅，即係防止人入侵啦。咁但係就好啦 ，some of the most important events in that span of time。continue to leave their mark on those who live and work in the tower， 即係話咧係好多好重要嘅 event， 即係事情咧發生喺呢一段，即係咩叫 span means the period of time， 即係呢一段時間裏邊咧 continue to leave their mark on those who live and work in the tower， 即係令到咧嗰啲人住喺度或者工作喺呢個 tower 裏邊咧都會有好多嘅即係依然仲有好多嘅影響咁嘅意思係 leave their mark。In 1817, a yeoman on patrol encountered a terrifying white shape whilst mounting a staircase, suffering a fatal heart attack as a result. 嗱呢件事咧就好不幸啦，1817年啦，就有一個人咧，咩叫 on patrol， 即係意思巡邏緊嗰陣時咧 ，encountered 就遇見一個白色嘅形狀嘅嘢啦，就當佢喺度做緊乜嘢咧，就係 mounting a staircase， 即係話咧有個白色嘅嘢，當佢喺度行緊上樓梯嗰時，見到啲白色嘅形狀嘅嘢。咁跟住之後咧，就 suffering a fatal heart attack， 即係因為見到呢咁嘅嘢咧，就令到佢有呢個心臟病發，就應該係死咗嘅。Again in 1882, a yeoman who peered late at night from a ladder into the tower's chapel saw 啲乜嘢咧？咁亦都係啦，1882年啦，即係過咗幾十年之後啦。咁另一個 yeoman 咧就點樣咧 ？peer 即係意思係即係佢意思係裝入去。咁 OK， 即係會佢係控埋去睇，即係一樣嘢嗰陣時咧，喺個 chapel 即係一個小教堂，一個 small church。呢一段咧就係引用翻當時嘅記錄咧，佢究竟見到啲乜嘢啦？Slowly down the aisle moved a stately procession of knights and ladies, attired in ancient costumes, and in the front walked an elegant female whose face was averted from him.But whose figure greatly resembled the one he had seen in reputed portraits of Anne Boleyn。 呢一個咧係講佢乜嘢咧？係當時記錄嘅1882年啦，就係見到咧行嗰條走廊，慢慢咁行咧就見到好多呢啲嘅即係嗰啲 knights 就係嗰啲嘅騎士同埋啲女士啦，着咗啲古代嘅衫喎。跟住之後咧 ，and in the front walk 即係見到前面有一個女人啦，而佢嘅塊面咧咩叫做 averted from him。Verb 咧就有一個係 avoid， 即係佢唔望佢嘅意思啦。But whose figure greatly resembled 咧係 looked like， 即係好似乜嘢咧 ？The one he had seen in reputed portraits of Anne Boleyn。呢一個咧咩叫 reputed 咧係有 so called 嘅意思啊，即係所謂嘅即係嗰個嘅 portraits 係嗰個肖像啦，就見到呢個 Anne Boleyn 啦。Boleyn, Henry VIII's queen, who was later beheaded on his orders， 即係俾佢斬頭啊！即係Henry VIII 嘅一個嘅皇后咧，而佢係即係最終係要斬頭收場嘅。OK， 咁 Boleyn is perhaps the most famous of the Tower's one-time residents。咁即係話咧，即係話呢一個嘅 Tower of London 咧，係曾經咧就住過呢一個嘅當時嘅皇后。咁而呢個皇后係俾佢自己老公咧，就係要殺咗佢嘅。歷史你會睇翻點解咧？就係因為佢唔能夠生仔咯。咁佢哋就King Henry VIII 咧就好唔中意佢，於是咧就休咗佢，兼且就俾一啲罪名俾佢，跟住就要斬佢頭。Visitors have attempted to see her ghost there for hundreds of years, and many accounts of sightings have been given。即係話咧，好多啲遊客咧都話有見過佢嘅鬼魂喺嗰度啦。咁有好多 many accounts， 即係好多記錄啊，記錄過話見到佢咁嘅意思。In fact, yeomen at the tower have spoken of many of its famous victims appearing as ghosts。即係有好多咧曾經喺呢一個 Tower of London 住過嘅人啦。都有啲鬼魂係喺度飄來飄去咁話，即係嗰啲 yeoman 都會見到佢哋。Henry VI、Thomas Becket、Sir Walter Raleigh and the Twin Princes among others， 即係話呢啲係一啲好出名嘅以前即係俾人哋喺嗰度坐過監，跟住之後死咗嘅人啦。咁都係曾經咧啲人都會見到話喺嗰個 tower 都見到佢哋。 So not only do the pressures of the modern world make the beefeater's day job a challenge, their nights are troubled by the great victims of England's history。咁呢個咧就係話佢哋原來夜晚咧都會即係受到好多即係好要好擔憂自己會見到以前咧喺呢度被殺嘅一啲嘅皇族啦。我哋睇睇呢個第6題啦 ，Name the famous female ghost at the Tower of London。咁究竟其中一個好出名嘅女鬼係邊個咧？咁文章裏邊直情係有一段講佢噶啦，就係呢一個嘅我諗寫翻佢全名啦，應該係 Anne Boleyn。咁佢叫你 name 咧，就只係需要寫個名嘅啫。好啦，接住啦，我哋睇翻呢個第8題啦。佢問你 that 啦係指乜嘢？呢個咧其實係比較難嘅呢題。咁你會見到咧個 that 咧就喺呢一度啦，個 that 就喺呢一度啦。我哋咁我哋睇下呢個 that 喺呢一度啦。咁而呢個 that 係指乜嘢咧？我哋睇翻上面嗰段啦。嗱，其實 that 咧係冇正式咧係講有一個字嘅，佢話 there's a lot of history， 但係佢話 first of all plenty of difficulty adjusting the beefeaters 咁多年嘅歷史啦，然後跟住之後咧又話自從到 King Henry the Eighth 啦 formed the guard 啦，咁呢一樣嘢係好多嘅歷史，即係做咗好多嘢呢幾百年之內。其實咧最主要咧就係應該嗰個 beefeaters 528-year-old tradition 咧。就係即係嗰個嘅佢哋嘅歷史，或者唔係 tradition， 佢哋嘅 history。OK，beefeaters 528-year-old history 或者 tradition 咧，就係嗰個嘅a lot of history 咯。所以就會寫翻咧，就係呢一個The beefeaters 528-year-old tradition 就係一個好長嘅歷史啦。咁而 there 啦25行嗰個 there 係指乜嘢咧？我哋睇翻啦 there 啦，你會見到 their mark on those who live and work in the tower， 即係話咧佢哋嘅留咗好多痕跡咁嘅意思。咁我哋睇翻之前嗰句啦 ，Some of the most important events in that span of time continue to leave their mark。there 咧就係嗰啲 some of the most important events 咯。OK， 即係喺嗰段時間裏邊一啲好重要嘅一啲嘅事情啦，繼續留低佢哋嘅即係佢印係咁嘅意思。咁你會寫翻咧，就係之前嗰個 some of the most important events。我哋睇翻啦 ，attired 咧係指翻乜嘢咧？咁頭先我解過俾你聽，呢個就係解衫咁嘅意思啊嘛。咁其實所以咧就係 dressed 啦。咁 occupation 咧當然就係 job 啦。resistance 咧即係唔願意 opposed to 啦，唔願意去改變啊嘛，話佢哋。另外 hostility 咧頭先就係話因為嗰啲女性就面對 hostility of the other warders， 咁所以咧就係 hostility 咧就係 J 嗰個嘅anger and attacks。certain 啦 certain 即係好肯定啦，所以呢度或者係某個啦，咁呢一度係解 specific 或者 particular。呢個咧係 monarch 咧 monarch 或者 monarch 啦，呢一個咧就係嗰個君主嗰個皇帝，所以 the king or the queen。patrol 就係指乜嘢咧？即係佢巡邏啦，巡邏咧就係即係指route for keeping watch， 就係會喺度巡邏行來行去喺度及住有冇人即係做一啲咩唔好嘅嘢啦。chapel 咧就係指一個 religious building。另外 repute 係解乜嘢咧？就係 so call 啦 ，alert 即係聲稱一樣嘢啦。我哋睇翻啦，呢個 repute 咧係解乜嘢咧 ？Generally thought to be something or to have done something, although this is not certain， 即係唔係太肯定。至於 accounts 咧，即係一個嘅記錄咁嘅意思啦，記錄或者係一個 stories 或者一個 report 咁嘅意思。 好啦，下邊啦，a police officer must remain alert 即係要警醒啦 ，alert at all times. So of course he cannot drink whilst on patrol. According to some 一個記錄一個 story 啦 accounts. The number of people at the protest was well over 2,000. 呢個咧係抗議嘅人咧有超過2000。There are those that believe the role of the monarch is no longer appropriate in modern nations. 即係話咧嗰個君主嗰個角色咧已經係喺現在嚟講已經係冇用㗎啦，佢哋。All the guests who arrived at the party were beautifully attired. 即係話咧個個都着得好靚。接住啦 ，in certain cases， 即係喺某一啲嘅情況之下咧 ，those suffering from fever should be taken directly to hospital.